Hi friends, in this, Granny's GodPod number 74, I have a question for you. Who was the lady disciple in the Bible? The Greek word for a male disciple is Mathetes. I wonder how many Mathetes you could name. Quite a few, I bet. If we understand a disciple to be a person who submits to someone in order to be their student, this could also apply to Paul, learning at the feet of Gamaliel, and it could also be Martha's sister Mary, who earned her sister's reproach for listening to Jesus rather than helping in the kitchen. But there is only one female actually named in the New Testament as a disciple using the female Greek form Mathetria. I wonder if you know who she is. In Acts 9 verse 36, Luke tells us about a lady with the Greek name of Dorcas, otherwise known as Tabitha in the Aramaic language, and both mean gazelle. The Greek name comes from a word meaning to see clearly, because the gazelle is an animal with bright, large eyes. Having two names is not uncommon in the Bible. In her case, living in Joppa, a port town, there would be many Greek-speaking people, so she would probably be known by either her Aramaic name, the language of Israel at the time, or by her Greek name, the standard language of trade and commerce in the Roman Empire at that time. Dorcas had a talent for making clothes. Previously, in Acts 9 verse 32, Luke tells us of Peter going through all parts of the country and arriving at Lydda, which was a place of the tribe of Ephraim, about 12 miles from Jerusalem, midway between Jerusalem and Joppa, where Dorcas was. It's here that Peter healed Aeneas, who had been paralysed for 8 years. Peter simply says to him, "Aeneas, Jesus Christ heals you. Get up and make your bed." He got up immediately, and many people in the area saw him and believed in the Lord. So why does Luke give us this little vignette or word picture about Aeneas? Returning to Dorcas, we learn that she lived in the town of Joppa, a beautiful city on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Incidentally, it's the city from which Jonah went in order to obtain a ship going to Tarshish. Luke sings her praises as a person full of good works and acts of charity. This is Luke's way of giving the idea that a quality is possessed in the highest degree possible, as in full of grace or full of faith. But then straight away Luke tells us that she became sick and died, and that her body had been washed, a traditional part of the burial practice, and laid in an upstairs room. So what was the point of these reports? Since the people had heard that Peter was at Lydda, 2 men set off to ask him to come straight away. When Peter arrived, they showed him to the upstairs room. All the widows stood beside him, weeping and showing him clothes that Dorcas had been making for them. The types of clothing noted by Luke included the chiton, which is a garment worn close to the skin, maybe an undergarment, a shirt, a coat, etc. The second is the himation. This is a garment worn over the chiton, such as a robe. It would often be made of wool, having openings for the head and arms, and would be a more loosely fitting garment. These were the tunics and garments which Dorcas had been in the habit of making for the needy. Peter ushered the crowd out of the room and having knelt in prayer in a state of reverence, not claiming any authority of his own, he turned to Dorcas' body and said, "Tabitha, arise." Tabitha cumi, coincidentally similar to Jesus saying Talitha cumi to the little girl in Mark 5. And Tabitha, Dorcas, opened her eyes, brought back to life by the power of God and the petition of Peter. On seeing Peter, she sat up. I wonder how she felt about being brought back to life. We remember Paul being torn between with the Lord or staying to minister to others, since in Philippians 1 verse 23 he says being with Christ is far better. Not that it was a choice for Paul to make. But Dorcas has a non-speaking role in this scenario and does not say a word. Then Peter, having given her his hand, helps her up and presents her to the waiting saints and widows. Dorcas is restored to those who had been mourning her loss, and the joy of her presence was probably accompanied by a great amount of praising the Lord for his tender mercies upon them all. But the restoration of Dorcas's life was not first and foremost to bring happiness to those who had experienced her loss, nor was it so that she could continue doing good works for the people of Joppa. It was also not to relieve her of the state of death. Rather, the miracle was primarily for people to hear about it, and then to accept that the Lord had accomplished it. And that is what occurred, as it next says, "And many believed on the Lord." The news spread throughout Joppa, and Peter remained there some time, staying with a certain Simon, a tanner. And the spreading of the good news is what ties together both of these stories of Luke. We're not told any more about Dorcas, otherwise known as Tabitha, but since she is called a Mathetria, she may well have helped Peter spread the good news and set up a church in Joppa. Her sewing skills would no doubt help her to connect with people. It is only conjecture, but as Lydia probably helped Paul through her trade contacts, Dorcas's skills in the sewing trade may also have provided contacts for Peter in this busy port city. That's all for now, folks. See you next time. God bless.